1 Timothy 6, 17 to 19. Before I read that, we have a couple of questions here. When you hear the word rich, who do you picture? Right? Well, I mean, you are. The word tells us that we're seated with Christ in heavenly places, and he's all we're co-heirs of Christ, and actually we're filthy rich in when you think about it that way. And filthy is absolutely the wrong word. We're blessed rich, I guess. If Helen was here out in Andrews, she'd always take exception with me if I said stuff like that. We're potluck. She's known as pot blessed, she'd say, and stuff like that. Get your language right, Pastor. Several things came to mind for myself too, like Current Billionaires, of course. We think of that. When I was a kid, we had several Richie Rich comics. So for some reason that popped in my head. Richie Rich and his escapades there. And then also Rich Little, for some reason, the guy, the comedian and the impressionist that you may remember from when I was a kid. I was always surprised by how well he can impersonate people and what have you. But in the end of the day, usually we come back around to probably all of us here that the idea of being rich doesn't mean money. So we think of people who seem to love life, whether they have wealth or not. And mostly that is God-fearing people. 1 Timothy 6, 17 to 19. As for the rich in the present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us everything we need to enjoy. They're to do good, be rich in good works, be generous, ready to share, thus storing up treasures for themselves as good foundation for the future, so they may take hold of that which is truly life. So we got a few discussion questions, and then I'm going to just share my thoughts. Why do you think Paul warns against putting hope in wealth rather than wealth itself? If you truly learn to be generous, you can overcome the control of money on your life. I think being generous is about breaking the fear of it's breaking the poverty mindset that if I give what I have now, God will not give me what I need tomorrow. So I better not share. Like I need this because I need it for tomorrow, rather than being like, I can share because I trust God is going to give me what I need tomorrow. And so when you're generous, you start to learn to trust in God and to not your bank account or your paycheck, because even our bank account's just digital numbers these days, right? I mean, somebody messes with the system and all of a sudden you don't have any money or whatever. Stuff could happen. They decide, especially whatever, I mean, they're getting closer and closer to that time when they will be able to control who buys and sells, because there won't be any cash anymore. It's just gonna be numbers or whatever. So we're getting there. They're working on it. They're working hard on it. And it might come within our lifetime. Who knows? But hey, trust in God, not in those numbers that say what you're worth. What fear makes generosity difficult, and where does trust come into play? I guess I just answered that actually. So let's go ahead and so here's my thoughts. Previously, Paul called out preachers who were using the gospel for material gain. And now he's reinforcing that, and he's speaking to the wealthy in the congregation. So he's, the wealthy. If you remember when we were talking, he's calling out, these guys are just in it for the money. And he's really hard on that. And now he's also saying you have wealthy people in your congregation. That's fine. But here's some things I wanted to say to them. Trust in God and not in money. And this is low-hanging fruit for people who disdain religion when we're talking about wealthy preachers and mega churches. If you say you trust in God and the love of money is wrong, what's with all these excesses you have? Do you really need these $1 million audio video equipment and so on? Do you really need your own private jet? Of course you don't. I mean, that's the extreme example for guy's got his own jet going around. Do you need that? And then, do you need these $1 million buildings? Because they are $1 million buildings. Do you need that thing? Do you really need that? There's people starving in Africa. That's what, so it's low-hanging fruit for if you want to get into that. But what about the rest of us? Money is still a major source of stress for most people, I think. And even after all God has done for us and all that we read in the Bible, we still worry about how we're going to pay the bills, and we still worry about the future. We still bob our heads to our employers. So many of you don't have to worry about that anymore, but not because God says do a good job, but because we're worried. We're worried we're going to get fired. We're worried about losing that job. And it's good and it's godly to be a good employee when you have the idea and the attitude that I'm doing this for God, that God provided me this job and I'm going to do it for him and I'm going to trust in him to pay me what I need. Right attitude to have. Shouldn't be about fear though. God doesn't give us fear. God gives us what we need when we need it. And it says here, I like this verse because it says he gives us to richly. He richly gives us what we need to enjoy. So it's not just like, going to give you enough to scrape by. But God richly gives us what we need to enjoy life. And we need to give him some credit so we can trust in him. And if something comes up in our job that isn't right, we can draw a line there and we can say, you know what, I can't. And I'm going to trust in God to take care of me, whatever the fallout is. I get into trouble though. Like I'm just, as I was just reflecting on this for myself, I get in trouble because I'm too darn stubborn. And I've come to accept that I'm not as humble as I ought to be. So this verse applies to me, 1 Peter 2:20. Of course, you get no credit for being patient if you're being beaten for doing wrong. It's my own fault. But if you suffer for doing good, God endure patiently, God's pleased with you. So I'm like, well, you know what? I can't complain. This is my own stupid fault. So I'm trying to be better at my workplace of just doing what they want me to do and not worry about if there's a better way to do it. Like we could do this a way better way. Who cares? They said do it this way, just do it that way. God didn't make me the boss, so just do it how they want it done. And I'm saying that because when you do something for God and not for people, then you can live with whatever happens because you're trusting God to take care of you. Like I'm trusting God to take care of me, and God never let me down. God has never once earned my distrust. Not ever. Not in my whole life, not in yours either, I'm going to wager. So if God gave me a job, God put me away, and you find if you put him first, he often gives you favor in your workplaces and other situations. And God is saying, put your trust in God who richly gives you all you need to enjoy life. Don't trust in wealth. And I like that enjoy life is there because God, like I said, isn't just providing enough for us to squeak by. He gives us enough to enjoy life. And there's a juxtaposition here because he's saying don't trust in what people say our rich is, but trust in God who gives richly. And I just like the way he kind of makes that argument there. So you be generous in good works, be rich in good deeds, and share because God provides generously to us. And again, it's easy to pile on pastors or whoever that get rich from people giving to them, glorifying wealth as godliness and all that. We all get that. I don't need to go there this morning. You're like, yeah, we know that already. What I do want to say is that God is rich towards us. And you can have nice and even luxurious things without glorifying wealth. Because there might be some moment where there's some gospel worker, been faithful to God, and that guy just really loves nice cars. And God might provide him a nice car as a nice surprise. The car doesn't rule their lives, right? It's not their idol. They're not chasing it. They're not proud of it, but they just really enjoy it. And my God is a God who's generous and he gives us stuff to enjoy life. And he would say, hey, you love cars. You're a faithful servant. You're doing what I'm telling you to do. Here, you can have this nice car. Not like, I was like, I need a new car, right? Like, not like that, but just God blesses somebody. And that is a blessing in that situation. Now that like we had a fundraiser, I'm going to have a fundraiser so you can get me a new car. Like, no, I can't get upset though if we went on a 4-day cruise and then we spent 4 days at amusement parks and we saw around 12 to 16 comedy shows in those days. And we went on about 40 roller coasters, rides, and attractions in 8 days. And it was crazy. I've never been so busy on a vacation. Yesterday, we were just sitting there and we were what did we do? Like, remember when we were trying to piece together what we did each day because it's like, it's a blur. And some of the rides, I'm like, we were on this ride. And I'm like, you know what? I'm drawing a blank. Like, I know I was on that ride. I remember 3 things about it maybe, but I don't know what else happened there. That was a good day to maybe start doing journaling so I could remember what we did. But look, my wife loves roller coasters and comedy shows, and I enjoy theme parks. And I think, God is okay with us having fun sometimes because it says so right here that God richly provides us with everything we need to enjoy. Like one year we took our family to Orlando. Twice we were able to do that. Take our kids down to Orlando. see Universal Studios and Disney World and all that. Usually our vacation was 2 weeks in Kelowna, staying with a family, or like a family, one of our family members. And that was a blessing because we couldn't afford to stay 2 weeks in a hotel. And we loved that, and we were very thankful God provided that. But we saved up, we had our airline points, and we were able to go to Disneyland. And I was so really happy to be able to do something like that for my kids because we living on a modest salary. Go there, we had a great time. When I got home, I had a long phone message about somebody from this who used to go to this church cussing me out because we went to a vacation to Orlando when we said we were doing a VBS that summer. And he just assumed I went on a holiday instead. And we did try to do a VBS, and that person didn't come to help, by the way, but no one showed up. So that was disappointing. We went on our vacation. And later that summer, we're doing a fundraiser for a Young Life here in the Fort, Bible-based organization, works with teenagers. We did that for about 10 years. We did everything. We went and got the hamburgers, we got the cheese, we got the buns, we got the barbecue set up, we'd set up the tent, got all the condiments, everything. We did everything. They provided some volunteers. We did all the cooking. And we gave them all the proceeds. And we're sitting there cooking burgers, and he calls me again to cuss me out. Went on for several minutes. I actually held the phone away from my face because I didn't want to hang up on him because he might explode in his home or whatever. I'm out here doing volunteer work in Canada Day, raising money for another organization, and you're cussing me out because I went on a holiday. I'm allowed to go on a holiday. I'm allowed to do something nice, even extravagant once in a while. I didn't cheat the church or anything. And I firmly believe that God wants us to be able to do that now and then. And I'm saying that, I'm just saying this because it says here that God richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Like there are legit moments when a pastor is really in need and a congregation helps them out with a car or something. I've had that sort of thing happen to me when I really needed it. No one ever gave me a Ferrari, but people helped me out with secondhand vehicles. I got an old beater of a van that ran on propane one time. And man, we bombed that thing all over the place, taking kids on youth adventures and stuff. What a junker. But man, that thing ran. It never broke down on me. That's what this verse says to me. Don't trust in riches, but rather trust in God. And when you trust in God, you begin to see that He generously provides what you need, and even He gives you stuff to enjoy. I've been both sides of the equation. When we really needed something and there was no one else and there was nowhere else it was coming from, God provided. I went to church one night. This isn't in my notes. I'm just almost rambling here. I don't know why. This is what God wants me to say today. Went to church one Sunday night. Rent was due Monday morning. We didn't have enough. My plan was Monday morning to go to the office there and tell the guy, like, can you give me an extension? I can't cover rent. And that night, somebody wrote me a check. Like, stuff happened. There's more to it than that, but that night somebody wrote me a check. And they wanted me, they were trying to provide for me to go to Bible school, but I told them, you know what? I didn't know how I was going to pay rent tomorrow. So God provided. We didn't get paid a salary for 4 months out in Andrew. And every day, not every day, but money just came rolling in. People I didn't know were sending me checks. God provided. God isn't stingy. When we know that He's trustworthy and that He's generous, you and I ought to be generous and share what we've been given. Because tomorrow God will give what we need tomorrow. We don't have to cling to stuff if God's not going to help us tomorrow. Like as if God is going to stop helping me tomorrow. I got to hold on to what I got now. There's a problem with the world, right? So many people hoarding stuff. And we all know you don't need all that. You can't possibly even spend all this stuff that you're gathered to yourself. I've always been into electronics, synthesizers, computers, video games. I love all that stuff. And when I was younger, I couldn't afford the stuff that I always wanted. And it made me sad, which is wrong. That's the wrong side. And one time I went out and I bought a computer without discussing it with my wife. It's about $1,200 years ago, so even more money than it would be today. And our tax return came and I went and I bought a computer. And it wasn't even a good computer and it wasn't a good deal. And I came home and she didn't yell at me or anything. She's gotten a lot better at sharing her feelings since then. But I am joking. I would rather have you tell me how you feel than just give me the silent treatment. But I could tell she was really disappointed, and for good reason. And I couldn't really enjoy it. And a few months later, it didn't do the stuff I really wanted it to do. It was a bad decision. And a few months later, I felt like I need to get rid of this. And so I gave it away. Like I just gave it away. I didn't sell it. I just gave it away. And that hurt. It hurt me to give it away. It was hard to do, but I knew I needed to do it. That was around Christmas time. Come that summer, I had an extra $600. I don't remember why. Maybe I did some painting or something. And I looked in the newspaper. Back in the day, the newspaper, the guy was selling computers out of his home, refurbished computers, $600. Discussed it with my wife. She was okay with it. I went and picked it up. That was a great computer. I got a lot of use out of the thing. You could say I'm still using it today because I just upgraded it. It's a totally brand new, but I just upgraded the pieces as the years went by. The only ever new desktop I've ever bought was here for the church, and it's up there in the back. And since then, I've always had a little bit extra here and there to build computers, get synthesizers, play games. I gave away a car one time. I'm not sure it did the person any good because I'm pretty sure they sold it and they bought booze. But I felt like it was the right thing to do at the time. And our cars have always been good to us. And that is to say that God has always been good to us. God, I give you honor. I praise you. I glorify you. I testify. God has always been good to us. We have always had what we need when we need it. God, you have been good. You have been faithful. And I should be more generous. Like I'm saying stuff, I'm not trying to brag on myself at all. I'm just testifying what God has done. My wife's more generous than I am. I'm glad she is. She's always given money. And I'm like, why did you do that? We needed a ride to the airport from our hotel in Orlando. A shuttle would cost us $40 from the hotel. And it was 39 Canadian to get an Uber. So we booked the Uber. I set it all up. I set it up to pay the tip. I gave him a generous tip of $38. He gets to the airport. My wife gives him 20 American. And I'm like, we just spent $60 on that ride now. That guy got a 90% tip. But I'm not mad. I think it's funny. He's a nice guy. I hope it made his day. Like, good for you. We're in Myanmar with Matthew and stuff, and he's telling me not to pay the cabbies. Like, they're not supposed to get more than $5 per ride. And I'm like, dude, we'd spend 20 in Canada. Why are we? I don't care if they're ripping me off because I'm a tourist. I don't care about that. Why can't they have nice stuff too? I'm not trying to put myself out there as an example of generosity because I think I should be better at it. But I'm trying to say that I know this verse is true. When you're generous, when you share, when you put your trust in God, that's a good foundation for the future. Because number one, you're investing in the stuff that can never spoil or fade away. You're investing in eternal riches. And B, I have found that when you give, God multiplies back to you. And it's not even like trying to game the system or anything. Like I'll give so that God blesses me. It's just following what God established as a principle. Luke 6:37. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. And not just 1-to-1 ratio. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. That's Jesus talking. Be rich in good works, be generous, and you'll be building towards a good future. And God notices that, and God will not let it go unrewarded. And Paul's pointing towards true life. Be generous so that you can experience true life, both on this earth and in the age to come, as we're singing a glorious day. That day's coming.